Welcome to our book club discussion. Today we are talking about Marketing a Love Story by Bernadette. Jiwa, right?
Yes.
And I am not absolutely sure that I am pronouncing her last name right, but that's the problem with books, is they don't speak to you. They just sit there and you have to read them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help all you ladies and gentlemen out there sell more products and services in the aviation world.
Absolutely. So this episode has been brought to you by our Sales and Marketing Lab, which is our networking group for all of our clients. We really like for people to get as much out of their relationship with us as they possibly can, and as we possibly can help them get. And a lot of that has to do with our marketing lab, which includes networking events, our private Facebook group where people can get good opinions from each other or bad opinions from each other about various topics and marketing problems that they run into and things like that. It includes our book club, and it also includes office hours so that people can talk with us about whatever's the most important thing on their plate this month in terms of their sales and marketing objectives, right?
And the annual breakfast.
Oh yeah, and our annual breakfast is coming up. I'm pretty excited to see our folks in person. Sometimes that's the only time we actually get to sit in the same room as a lot of our clients is at the NBAA National Convention. We always have a breakfast to kick off that event and get everybody together if we can. So we'll hopefully see you there if you're one of us, and if you're not one of us, you should join us before then so you get to meet everybody. Exactly. It's a great time to jump in. All right, so let's talk about the book. First impressions, it is a skinny little book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is not a lot to it. I mean, my first impression was that this was kind of a nothing little book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there is not a lot to it. But actually, after going through it, I think it's one of those things where things are what you bring to them. It did have a lot of thought-provoking little sparks in here, and it was not there's a lot of books where they do a lot of repeats, and I think the last book that we read on Southwest Airlines was a lot like that. It was a very thick book, but it didn't all need to be there. A lot of it was repeats, a lot of it was rehashes, a lot of it was things like that. This is a very condensed little book, and I think it was kind of the opposite of what we have been reading lately, right?
Probably.
Mm-hmm. It was also very cheap to mail. And I really liked it because we read it in Hawaii. So it was super easy to just slip into my carry-on and read on the plane, and then also read here. We ended up being stuck in Hawaii for an extra day because of Hurricane Lane.
A supposed hurricane.
The supposed Hurricane Lane. It was a hurricane, just not where we were. And it ended up being kind of a nothing. You were kind of disappointed, weren't you?
Well, I mean, the Big Island got a lot of rain and very little wind, from what I understand. But, I mean, the day that we left, got a little bit of mist. Mm-hmm. We walked out on the shores and watched a few large waves, but...
Mm-hmm. Well, what's funny is the day that we got to our hotel room in Ko'olina, which is on the south side of Oahu. And
west, actually.
West, yeah, southwest corner of Oahu. I guess it's not really a corner because it's not a square. But anyway, we're looking out over the ocean, and John's saying, it'd be really cool to watch a storm from here, to watch a really good storm from here. And then we look at the news and they tell us that there's this hurricane on its way. And we get these notices under our door saying you should fill your bathtub and go get a bunch of groceries and things like that. So it ended up not really being a factor where we were, but we did have an extra day, and I got some reading done, so that's a good thing, right?
Yep.
Okay, so anyway, the first thing I noticed about this, and this is one thing that drives me crazy when I see them in books and other things where people are advertising a one-page plan, a one-page marketing plan, right?
It can't really be a plan. It can be nothing more than an overview.
Exactly. But after reading through what they had there, it's not really a plan, it's more of a strategy. And a one-page marketing strategy, I think, is probably, is cool. And honestly, having a one-page marketing plan is more than a lot of folks actually do and keep updated. I think a lot of folks have done a marketing plan maybe 5 years ago and have not touched it since.
And things have changed.
Yeah, and I'd really rather have somebody have a one-page marketing plan that they refer to often and that they have on their bulletin board than to not have a plan at all, right? So actually pretty good instructions on that, and definitely worth doing. If you don't have a marketing plan, by all means, start with this. It is not as daunting as you think. It's just some bullets and things like that. I will bet you that you're going to end up with more than one page by the time you're done with it if you do a half decent job.
And just think it through.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I do like the idea of tip sheets, templates, one-page things that spark thought and they get people involved in the process. So, for what it's worth, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Second thing, page 15. Whoever...
Well, let's back up a second. One thing you need to do, you can leave it there.
All right.
Same as you do with any other business-oriented plan.
Mm-hmm.
Even in a large company that I worked for, we had a 1, 5, 10, and 100-year plan. And every year, we updated the 1, 5, 10, and 100-year plans.
Yeah.
And you have to review it and update it every year because circumstances change.
They do.
And it'll be the same thing for a marketing plan. Just a lesser task.
Exactly. When we do a marketing plan for someone that is part of a business plan that they present to investors, it can be hundreds of pages. So, when you do like our marketing flight plan or something like that, where you're looking at an angel investor or going to the bank for money or something along those lines, they are looking for significantly more than a one-page marketing plan.
True.
Yeah. But
just so you know.
For what it's worth and for a quick reference, easy thing that you can hand new employees and, give everybody a real quick overview of what your marketing plan is, it certainly is better than nothing, right?
Of course.
Okay, cool. So next thing that I thought was really cool was their discussion of whoever gets closer to the customer wins, and they gave some really good examples. So the examples that they gave were like Apple versus Sony. Apple has Apple stores where they are literally spending millions of dollars to get closer to their customers. And the purpose of an Apple store is not necessarily even to sell anything. The purpose of an Apple store is to get your hands on their products, right?
Mm-hmm. And they do an excellent job of that.
Right, and get you talking to other Apple customers and Apple geniuses, is what they call them. The guys in the t-shirts with the apples on them. They are really close to their customers, and they invest a ton of time, money, and effort into getting close to customers.
They also effectively use the store for maintenance issues.
Mm-hmm.
As an example, we got back from Hawaii, and her Mac computer wouldn't.
Oh, my MacBook Pro is like my best friend, other than John. It is my closest friend in the world. I kid you not.
It wouldn't reboot. So we took it down there, and they said, let us have it overnight. And then they called us and said, we can fix it here for this amount, or we can send it to the repair center, and they will fix that and anything else they find for the same price.
And I have to tell you that leaving your MacBook Pro at an Apple store is like leaving your dog at the vet. It is the same emotionally wrenching experience, right? Well, pretty close anyway.
So we got it back, and then they said they would give us a call on the day it showed up here.
Right, exactly.
But the point is, they not only repaired the cause of the failure to reboot, they replaced the battery, and they replaced the keyboard and the whole top part of the computer. And so we have a brand new, except for the disk drive, the solid state drive, and the screen, it's all new.
Right. So, yeah, staying close to their customers is something that they have invested a heck of a lot of money in doing. Amazon versus Borders. Amazon does a ton of personalized marketing. So if you look for something on Amazon, you will see ads for that forever. Well, at least for the next little while. They get to know people very, very well. And, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it is very convenient to be able to order the same kind of coffee, the same socks, the same whatever, more than once. And
yeah, they keep that information there. If you allow cookies, and poof, there it is. Just go touch it again and you get another one.
Right. And
which is great for coffee and things you'd buy monthly.
And they deliver it to your house. You don't go to them like you go to Borders or, one of the other bookstores. So that's a whole nother story. Netflix versus Blockbuster. Netflix comes to your house, or used to deliver CDs to your house. That's how they kind of got started. Was they would deliver a bunch of CDs, you watch them, or DVDs, I'm sorry. Movies used to come on DVDs. You would watch them, and then you would return them, and you would get new ones. You didn't have to go to the Blockbuster.
And then came broadband.
Right. And this is relevant to aviation customers because your customers expect very personalized and very to-your-door kind of service nowadays because of all these things that are going on. Uber versus taxi, any taxi company. If you use Uber, you use the app, you can see a picture of your driver, you can see a picture of their car, you can see where they are on a map, how long it's going to be before they pick you up. All of those things are very, very personalized as opposed to a taxi. I remember calling a taxi in San Francisco, and you have no idea who this person is or when they're going to get there. You just wait until he shows up.
Well, I had the same experience in New York City where I called a cab and I knew the quickest route to get where I was going, and you have to, otherwise some of them will take you on a ride. And if Uber does that, there's no more charge to you. Right,
exactly. So Uber versus taxis, Nest versus Honeywell. You're talking thermostats in your house. There's covering a pretty wide range of territory here. And if you're in aviation, you can think of examples, I'm sure, with your company of ways that you can get closer to your customer. So Nest basically adapts to your schedule. If it knows that you work Monday through Friday and you're home by 6 o'clock every night and you like a certain temperature or whatever, you can program that into your thermostat, and they do a really nice job of advertising that.
Well, it also senses people. So if they don't sense anybody around, it'll set it back to whatever your preset was.
Right, exactly. And Honeywell might have technically better products, but Nest does much more personalized marketing, exactly. All right, Twitter versus News Corp, or Reuters, or whomever, AP. Twitter is your friends and family, and God only knows who all else. Twitter is from your friends, family, people that you've chosen to follow, versus AP, Reuters, News Corp, the newsfeed on your Apple phone, your Wall Street Journal subscription, and so on. This is really a political issue and so on, that people are seeing the news that they want to see. And was that a good thing or a bad thing? We could debate that, but for the purpose of today and today's discussion,
we won't.
Thank you. The point is that you have a lot more control over your Twitter settings, and you can decide who you want to follow and who you want to unfollow, what you want to see more of and what you want to see less of. You can do searches on hashtags. You can do all kinds of things to control what you are looking for at the moment. It is a lot harder to search for an article that was published 5 years ago or whatever, using the old technology, than it is to find current things. So anyway, the point of all these bullets is whomever gets closer to the customer wins. Is it whom or who?
Whom.
Whomever, right. Okay, they have it wrong in the book. But point being, how can you make your product or service more personalized and more tailored to your specific customers without spending a ton more money? Sometimes there's an easy way to do that.
Well, and it doesn't matter the size of the client or customer or business you're dealing with. You're still dealing with people.
Oh, yeah. That is absolutely true. And you think, well, maybe this doesn't apply to business. Not true. You're still selling to a human being who's making that decision.
Right.
Okay. Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about 10 things a brand does. most people, when they think about a brand, they think about just the logo, maybe the trademarked products or services, maybe a tagline, maybe a color scheme. Those kinds of things is what people think of as a brand.
It could be a response to customer questions.
Exactly. Microsoft does. So there's a different meaning, even though they're selling basically the same products.
Okay.
Okay. All right. 2, determines what you sell, where, and when.
Oh, that'd be true.
Yeah. 3, dictates the price range you can sell at. And this is really important for aviation folks because there is a thing about perceived value where your brand has to be consistent and trusted in order to raise your prices to what they need to be to sustain your business model.
Of course.
In a lot of cases. And we've seen a lot of times where people violate their brand by sending out something cheap or sending out something that is not well thought through, which breaks that chain of this is a high-end experience.
Or get involved with a race to the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Right. Influences the kind of customers you can sell to.
Of course.
Yeah. So you think of...
and brands grow over time, so you have to be very careful and cultivate it so that it is what you want.
Right. So you think about like Harley Davidson versus Ducati. They're both fabulous motorcycles depending on what you want, but they're very different people.
Oh, yes.
That they sell to. Changes how people feel about commodities. So insurance is an example. Most insurance companies sell the same products because they're kind of legally mandated. This is what this kind of policy has to include or doesn't include. The difference is the service that they provide around it.
True.
So if you're selling a commodity, you have to make it more than a commodity. You have to add service, you have to add training, you have to add a personal touch, you have to add something that makes it worth more than the commodity that the other guy is selling. We got in a discussion a couple of years ago with somebody who was selling 172 lease time, wet lease time in a 172, and saying, I can't charge more than the other guy on the field.
As a matter of fact, that's what you should be doing.
Exactly. You need to make your hour of 172 time worth more than the other guy's hour of 172 time. And the way you do that is you have a better training program.
That's right.
So it has to be, you have to think about it as more than a commodity. And your brand is what does that, right? 6, sets expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a different expectation walking into, we went to this fabulous restaurant the other day. It's called Grappa, and it's in Park City, Utah. Highly recommend it if you're ever in Park City. Italian restaurant. You can see it from across the street. It's got these beautiful lights, the patio lights. It's got white tablecloths. It's got smiling, happy people eating.
On a terraced sort of outdoor venue.
Yeah.
That goes up the mountainside.
With beautiful flowers outdoors and everything else. So, the expectations at Grappa are entirely different than the expectations down the street at the Irish pub, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which also has a balcony, and it also serves food.
Exactly.
But it's an entirely different set of people, and, you walk into Grappa, and you're expecting that the entrees are going to be more expensive. You're expecting a different kind of experience.
And more quality.
Yeah, and that's fine.
And you're not disappointed.
Right. And you're also not shocked.
Right.
By the prices, because you've seen what the place looks like from the outside. Okay. 7, affects the kind of staff you can attract.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And this is so hard these days. People are all fighting to get pilots and fighting to get mechanics. So you've got to have a company that has a good reputation that they are thrilled to tell their friends and family about. That they
or
work
if you
for this
don't, you have to have something that they can't find anywhere else.
Exactly.
Schedule, pay, time off.
Right.
So.
Number 8, demonstrates your values. So if we were to sell, let's say, marketing services to somebody that had an unmarketable product or service, that would violate our values.
Yeah.
And
well, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So that would make us look bad. It would make the profession look bad. It would be bad for everybody. And, we'd probably have to refund their money, and it would just be a nightmare. And besides the fact that we would have no fun doing that. So we won't do it, right? Okay. 9, shapes business models.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so you think about the business model of Apple versus Microsoft. I keep coming back to that.
Well, it's easy for folks to see because most people have experienced both.
Right.
If they haven't, they need to go to the Apple store.
Right, exactly. The business model is entirely different, even though they sell the same product or service. Okay, and number 10, enables loyalty, connection, belonging, and love.
Yeah, about love.
Oh, come on. Depends on how you define it, I suppose. But yeah, a lot of folks will, when they talk to us for the first time, they feel like, well, I kind of know you because I've been listening to your podcast, so I know what you're going to say. And I wanted to come to you to do this because I feel like I know you guys, and they are very loyal to us. We've had customers who've been with us for years and years and years, even though their staff is turned over.
Right.
They stay loyal to us, which, I think is wonderful. And there's brands that we're loyal to as well. You and your Harley Davidson and your American Express and your Tesla. And there's a lot of brands that I really like as well. So,
one called Aviation.
One called Aviation, absolutely. That's not a brand, that's a...
I know.
Yeah,
but
segment.
I had to throw that in.
Right, exactly. So those are things that a brand can do, and it's not just a logo, right? Most people think way too shallow when it comes to what a brand can and should do for you.
Exactly.
So I thought that was an excellent discussion in the book, and also thank you very much for an excellent discussion here. Okay.
Quite well.
All right. Okay. Don't make me click, make me care.
Ah, that's good.
That is very good. So here we're talking about, there's lots of ways to make people click. There's lots of tricks that you can employ. You can do pop-ups that won't go away, that cover the entire screen that they can't get rid of. That will make people click, and it will make your metrics look good. But it won't
make me click. I'll go to a different site.
Okay. That's very likely, but there's a lot of people who will click to get rid of that pop-up.
Yeah, well, after you try that once or twice, you realize it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you're just looking at your metrics on your website, you'll see you got a lot of clicks on that. But none of those clicks translate to purchases.
Right. That's a problem.
Exactly. So, you want to look at how deep are these connections going. And if it's just a click, and a lot of people will do this on their social media and other things, they will do something kind of shallow. And there are times and places where you don't have to be all business all the time. You can throw out a picture of your puppy, That's fine. And you're going to get a heck of a lot of clicks, and there is nothing wrong with doing that. I think, I love puppies. So, there you go. But it's not going to sell anything. So you want to have a mixture of different depths of materials on your website. You're going to want to have things that are pretty shallow and light and easy and clean and no big deal. And then you're going to want to have things that are pretty in depth and go into a lot of detail about your product or service and have some meat for people who are further along in your sales process and really need the substance behind it, right?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, the buy now. Too much screaming is a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It will get you good short-term results, but it's not going to complete a long cycle sales process, right?
No, not at all.
Okay. The most dangerous thing that you can do about your competition. The most dangerous thing about your competition is not that they're going to kill you, right? And it's not that they're going to beat you by $5. And it's not that they are doing more advertising than you are. It is not anything like that, right? It is the fact that you are spending so much time
trying to be in number one place on Google search when they are number one place.
Oh, man. I'll tell you, within the top 3, there is very little difference in the number of clicks that you get. If you're in the top 3, you're doing all right. Being in the number 1 position has what is the law of diminishing returns?
Right.
That is just not worth it in a lot of cases.
Some people spend thousands and more to try to get to that slot and never make it.
This is a great story, right? When taxi firms worried about the impact of fare hikes associated with rising fuel prices, the founders of the Uber app instead found ways to add value to the experience of hiring a car instead. Uber created premium services for customers who were happy to pay extra. They built a company with an $18 billion valuation in 5 years without owning a fleet of cars. So while all the taxi companies were trying to beat each other by $1 here and $1 there, Uber was doing something entirely different. So, if you're looking at your competitors when you should be looking at your customers, you're going to lose every time.
Oh, apropos. Here's this picture of his taxi outside the box.
Exactly. Right. So, you don't want to be...
Should have been Uber outside the box, though.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Well, Uber is taxi outside the box. Same function, just a different way of implementing a business model. So, rather than trying to out Apple, you make something entirely different.
Oh, yeah.
Or, outdoing your competitor at whatever it is that they are super good at. You find things that your customers want that they don't do for you, and you do those things. Okay. Next one. You don't have to matter to everyone, right?
Oh, heck no.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, there's an old cliche in sales.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think. 20% of the people will never buy.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter who's talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
20% of the people are going to buy whether you talk to them or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's the other 60% you're worried about.
Right. And even when you're looking at that 100%, right?
Yeah.
Are you looking at the right 100%? Maybe you could make that 100% smaller so that you can change those ratios. So maybe all Bonanza owners whose airplanes are 5 to 7 years old have a particular affinity for your product or service.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole lot easier to sell to them, and it's a whole lot cheaper to market to them than it is to market to all light aircraft owners. And it's
all single engine, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
Sure.
Any way that you can shave off portions of your marketplace that are less productive than others, the better. But I'm going to give you an example of this from our perspective, and this is something that is another way of looking at this. We used to, or at least there was a time when I was tempted to, do a marketing campaign of looking at some of the websites of aviation companies that were particularly bad and sending them a package in the mail and saying, here are some things that we can fix about your website. Okay, there's 2 problems with that. One, you don't tell people their children are ugly. That's just not very nice, okay? So I thought better of that. And then the second thing is that if people don't believe that you can help them, then you probably can't. And if they don't think there's anything wrong with their website, even if I do, and even if I can spend the time convincing them,
it doesn't matter.
That is not a good use of my time. My time is much better spent with people who come to us knowing that they want help or they need help. Right?
Isn't she smart?
She who?
You.
Oh. I think so. But the point being, if I have to convince someone that I need to, it doesn't matter how bad they need our service.
If they don't know they do, it doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. There are 3 factors that qualify a prospect, right? Money, authority, and perceived need.
Right.
Not necessarily need.
Right.
Okay, so it doesn't matter how bad they need your product or service. If they don't perceive the need, it's not going to happen, and it's not worth your time to pursue. Okay, so I thought those were some excellent points made in the book, and definitely worth the short time that it takes to read this.
Sure.
Yeah, this was a really minimal time requirement, and for people who think that they are too busy to read a book, this will give you a feeling of accomplishment because you can get this done in an hour and a half on an airplane while you're waiting for something else, right?
Or while you're waiting for a hurricane.
Yeah, exactly. So pick that one up. Excellent book, and better than it looks from the outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we help aviation companies sell more of their products and services. And we can help you schedule a 30-minute consultation with us, and let's talk about what's on your mind, what's bugging you about your website, your brand, your competition, whatever it is that's driving you crazy. And let's talk about some ways that we can solve those problems and get you to the point where you're selling more and more easily, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, and have a great week.
See you next time.